looks like we're going again. Well, you know, friends, I just had to stop for a second, and I had to lay some things down. And what was that? I've been watching a lot of people on TV recently telling about their philosophy and their this and their that. And, you know, most of the time, these people are just completely screwed up, they're messed up, they're dumb. You know, I'm not saying that to be mean, but I'm telling you, it is a fact. You can look at the IQ test, you can look at the mythologies and delusions people incorporate into their lives. Let me tell you, friendly friends, people can be dumb as stumps and their followers like sheep or wolves. So since I've been seeing, you know, there have been some preachers on TV recently, and they're giving their 2 cents worth of everything. So I wanted to just throw a few things into the mix. Now, it seems to me that everybody, at least in the old days, had this paradigm of, you know, a wife and children, and you get a job, and you have a church, and maybe you join the military because that's a patriotic thing. And people would look at me and say, well, now, you didn't do any of those things. What's the matter with you, boy? Is there something wrong with your head? Well, that's another story, and I think you're being kind of rude. But no, I never had any of those things, and I never had any other things either. But I am as happy as a clam, and I think I'm one of the few people in the world, delusional as I may be, that actually lived the life they wanted to live. Because when I looked at it, I saw that everybody was generally down for getting married and having children, and these are the 2 worst things you could ever do. Complete waste of time, bringing up children. I've talked to lots of people that say, I love my children, but if I had it to do all over again, these things are crushing bores. Why are you going to get married when there's a million women out there? And why are you going to sign a contract that if you do go to divorce court, I'm being serious about this, the wife will get, and I'm, you know, no offense to you women out there, but it's true. The wife is going to get the house and the children, and you're going to get the fleas on the dog. Why make a contract out of that anyway? I think you're a dumbo. And, yeah, that's another thing. One of the reasons I'm doing this thing, just briefly, they were talking about, you know, also on this is church and military, which are good things. Now, I have no church because there is no God, so I don't generally, you know, jump into things that are farces on the face of it. Churches were invented to make you feel good and, you know, give you a good disposition, calm your fears, but there's no truth in any of that. And the military, I have nothing against per se, but I'm saying if you're going to fight a war in some place that's not necessary, which is our usual course, and then you're going to come back without any legs or out without your mind, you're going to be addicted to bath salts and bourbon, or you're going to be PTSD'd and VD'd and looking like Patrick Sneed or whatever. The way to do it, it's almost like a Buddhist philosophy. See, it's like people jump into the military, and they jump into the church, and they jump into the marriage, and they jump into the kids, and they jump into that soul-crushing corporation. Now, I have nothing against corporations, the usual crybaby stuff the liberals do. I would just say, from what I've read about them, that corporations are soul-crushing places, meaning there's a rung of employees above you that are kicking down toward you. They don't want you rising up to them. And there's people down on a rung below you that are reaching up toward your boots, and you're trying to kick them down. So there's this animosity and all this false dealing and just living a life of, as they said, mendacity. If you remember Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Burl Ives and Big Daddy. You're spending your whole life in mendacity, playing a game, a corporate game. It's unnecessary. You can live, if you want to live that life, now you go right ahead. I'm not trying to talk you out of it. That brings you pleasure, go ahead. But you see, when you're running out and grabbing on with these things, then you bring them back and you surround yourself with all these things you grabbed, and now they're on top of your head. My philosophy has always been, don't jump into these things. Hang loose, brother. Don't sign up for this and don't sign this contract and don't get, have the court overseeing you or the military overseeing you or the preacher overseeing you. Man, I'm a free agent. I do whatever I want. I love my life. I don't think I've missed a thing. I think the success of my life is just the opposite. It's all the things I don't have in it that I never wanted to begin with. And I didn't do them because that's what the other sheep were doing, so they would appear to be okay. But, if you're trying to prove anything to anybody in this world, you're crazy. You have nothing to prove to anybody. You live your life, and, they don't like it, they can kiss your fanny. That's always been my philosophy. But the one thing that takes is you have to have a little bit of intestinal fortitude. You have to have some guts. When people generally are going to be against your choices and they're going to want you to be a conformist, you have to have the huevos to say no. I'm not joining up with your little group. And this is an important thing. And now I know the reason I brought this whole thing up. It was percolating in the back of my mind. It's, I think, a good way to live that George Carlin was talking about. And this is exactly what Georgie boy had to say. He said, and this is, I think, the way I live my life, and I make no apologies. He said, at one point, I looked at, the left and the right and the religious and all the atrocities in the world and the man's inhumanity to man and all of that thing. And it never ends and it never will end, right? And he said, finally, I just gave myself a divorce from humanity. And so now I'm not part of all of the insanity. I sit back and I watch the left and the right go after each other. I watch the religious and the non-religious and the different religions blowing each other up on the battlefield. And all of this other stuff with the PTA and the churches and the military and whatever else you can think of. And I just gave myself a divorce from all of that. I didn't want to be in it. That's not part of me. That's all phony and fake. And I don't want to be like everybody else. What they do, like I said, they reach out and grab and they jump into the middle of it because they think that's a living life. But no, I gave myself a divorce. I don't want to be part of the PTA or this side or that side. And as I say, really, I think the right and the left politically are equally crazy. I don't really like either side. I dislike the left much more than I dislike the right because they have a kind of insanity that's really incurable. I mean, I think you can cure most of the people on the right, but most of the left are just beyond help, barring lobotomy. But either way, I'm not for or against any of them. I just sit back, like Carlin said, and I just like to watch the show. And then I say, oh, look at that atrocity. 50,000 people were killed. oh my, what a shame. And then you look at this and this and this, and you sit back like with a little notepad and you just marvel at the insanity of people, but you keep yourself out of it. And I think this idea of more or less divorcing yourself and then watching it as a spectacle. You could say, I'm like in the Colosseum in Rome, and I'm watching the spectacle down in the Colosseum. I'm not the emperor, I'm just one of the subjects. But I'm sitting in the Colosseum and I'm watching all the madness of life that's happening in the Colosseum, and I find it wild, and I laugh. Sometimes I cry, but I'm not part of it. I don't want to be part of it. Why do I want to join all kinds of movements and things that are bankrupt and crazy, and they're all based on the same idea of being a follower, a sheep? No, I am an independent agent, whatever that means, and I don't get involved with all the nonsense that people find to get involved with. And that's what I wanted to say here. I started out without the premise, but that idea of Carlin, I think, is the right idea. You just sit back. You don't join in any of this nonsense because it's unwinnable, it's sickening, it's devoid of any kind of sanity. But you sit back like an observer and you just look at it and you marvel at it. And then when people want to grab you into it, you just say, sorry, I can't really join you. But, I wish you well, and here's a couple of quarters for you. You know what I mean? So, bottom line, building on what Carlin said, I think that's a good way to live your life. Don't get sucked into all of this crap that all over the place, and once you get sucked into it, you don't get out of it. I knew a guy who said it took him 5 minutes to get married and 10 years to get divorced. And he was right. It took him 10 years because they couldn't stop fighting over the assets. Keep yourself out of the fray. Let the others fight and, rip each other apart and call them names, and you just sitting back and you're looking at it and you just have a little chuckle to yourself. So that's a good way to live, I think. And the only thing it takes is you gotta have the strength and the huevos to live your life the way you see fit and nobody else, because let me tell you, all they know is what they have been told. They don't know. They have no independent thinking on anything. What they know has been passed to them. What their parents knew was passed to them, and so it goes, and so it goes. Almost nobody is an independent thinker. Almost everybody is a cow in the herd, and that's all you're going to be. So I say Carlin's way is a pretty good way. Sit back like a sage, observe the madness, and look at it like a show. You got as he says, you got a front row seat to the best show in town, the insanity of people. You don't want to get down over that bearing and into the insanity. Stay back and watch them destroy each other, and then you go out and you have yourself a beer and a hot dog at the concession stand. You know what I mean? That's the end of that one, but I had to, when I saw Carlin there, I had to expound upon that. That is a good way to live life. Because if you don't, you're going to be in quicksand, and there's going to be about a dozen hands from every direction trying to pull you down into their mire. That's not where you want to be. There goes the big hand, and bye-bye to this video. But think about what I've said. There's some important things here, I do believe. Bye-bye.